Have you ever wanted to just forget about managing your Zabbix application layer, your database configuration, and just delegate that to someone else, or just stop worrying about it completely? So our next speaker is going to talk about how you can do that. So let's welcome Senior Pre-Sales Consultant from Oracle MySQL Poland, Vittorio Cioe, with Lift and Shift your Zabbix to Oracle Cloud with MySQL Database Service. Welcome.
So, hi everyone. Welcome back to another presentation from myself at the Zabbix Summit. It's very nice to find you here, even if this year we are all online. Me, myself, I would have preferred to be in Riga, but hopefully next year. This is Vittorio Cioe, and I'm here to talk about lifting and shifting your Zabbix installation to Oracle Cloud. So, for those of you who are new and were not here last year, I am a MySQL and Linux user since 2006. I am working at Oracle MySQL since 2017. I was previously having a lot of travel, so I was having a lot of fun. And this included regularly speaking at conferences. That's why a lot of people might know me from last year. So the agenda for today is as follows. We will speak about moving to the cloud, and then we will speak about planning our Zabbix migration, then migrating the application server, then migrating the database. So moving to the cloud, it's a big thing, and it's getting year over year even bigger because data are moving massively to the cloud. First of all, the consumer data are moving massively, as you can see from this graph, but be sure that the enterprise data will follow shortly, because the enterprise is always a bit slower in adopting, but when it adopts a technology, it goes in very big. And speaking about cloud providers, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, so-called OCI, it is the #4 cloud provider in the Gartner Magic Quadrant, and it's available in 26 regions, so 26 data centers across the world, and other 12 planned. So moving Zabbix to Oracle Cloud, why? For a bunch of reasons. First of all, you will get always the latest updates on your technology stack. Then you can spend more time into monitoring your infrastructure instead of managing your monitoring platform. And you can also leverage the security information and the security updates made available by OCI. So let's see how to plan an effective migration of the Zabbix management server to Oracle Cloud. So let's take into consideration an on-prem Zabbix installation. You have the clients, the proxies, as you know way better than me, and then you have the management server, the interface, and the database. What do we need for cloud migration of those last three components? Basically, we need the server configuration, a knowledge of the on-prem network topology. So we need to understand what can communicate with the outside or what would eventually go over VPN. So basically, the network topology of client and proxies. And last but not least, we need the database. So there are some things also which I need to plan and set up on my Oracle Cloud tenancy. So I need a MySQL database system. I need a compute instance, so a virtual machine for running Zabbix server. I need storage for the database and for the backup, and I need networking setups. We will discuss, take note of this, we will discuss those objects in a while. The target architecture is what you see on screen. So a first possible target architecture, it is setting up a VPN from your data center to your Oracle Cloud tenancy. And then I can deploy a load balancer. I can deploy the Zabbix server in redundancy over availability domains. And I can deploy in a separate subnet the MySQL database system. Well, it sounds a bit complicated because I need to set up a VPN so this is a full-blown, quite big setup. Is it too much for you? So there is also a lighter version where you can have perhaps proxies communicating to the public internet over TLS connection, communicating directly with the Zabbix server on the Oracle Cloud, and then the Zabbix server will interface with the database. You need way less elements. Basically, you need just a server, a database, and a VCN. For those of you who will come later today to the workshop, this is the kind of setup which we will adopt. So what about migrating the application to Oracle Cloud? Migrating the Zabbix application, as I have learned from the colleagues from Zabbix support, it is straightforward. So before you begin, you just need to set up the tenancy and the compartments. Then you need to set up the cloud networking. So the virtual cloud network with private and public subnet. And then you need to deploy the Zabbix server on a VM. You have basically two possibilities for doing this. You can do it with the official Zabbix image deployed onto deployable from the Oracle marketplace, or you can set up a VM and install it yourself. It doesn't take, in both cases, doesn't take much time. So you need to do also a bit of configuration. You need to start the VM which you have deployed, and you either install Zabbix, either you find it installed. And you need to edit the config file with the usual parameters as an on-prem installation, and then you need to point it to the database with IP address, username, and password. And for this, you will need a bit of networking to open several ports on the cloud network. It's all doable by graphical interface. When it comes to the VM, the OCI infrastructure allows you for multiple choices. So the Zabbix server by itself, it is quite a lightweight piece of software. It will have to handle connections, so it needs resources. Most probably, in the majority of cases, a powerful VM will be enough. But if needed, you have also available in Oracle Cloud the bare metal option, which are really big physical machines dedicated to single customers. And you have also the Kubernetes container engine. And you have also a lot of possibilities for storage, for a lot of storage, fast storage, which, by the way, it ends up being quite cheap. Migrating now the database for the Zabbix server with MySQL database service. What is MySQL database service? It is the managed offer for MySQL in Oracle Cloud, which was made available beginning of September. So it's 100% developed, managed, and supported by the MySQL team. And it is easy because it's fully managed. It's easy to provision, and it will give you always the latest features. It is secure because it leverages the Oracle Cloud features, which have been rated by various sources as one of the most secure cloud platforms available. And it is enterprise. Since it's built on the MySQL enterprise binaries, it's fully compatible with what you have on premise, let it be MySQL enterprise or community. And it costs way less on a year basis than a full-blown on-prem MySQL Enterprise subscription. So, considerations to do before you migrate. Before you migrate, you want to check the MySQL 8.0 compatibility of your database installation. You want to have a look, an eye on the database size to prognose the time you will need for the migration, and you want to plan a service window accordingly. The high-level migration plan is straightforward. It is basically set up cloud networking, which we have discussed, set up your networking connections to be able to communicate with the cloud, of course. And then you will create a MySQL database service DB system. So it's basically an instance of managed instance of MySQL database with attached storage. And then you have just to move your data using a utility made available from MySQL shell, which is called MySQL dump and load. So how to create a MySQL DB system? Let's go a bit more into details. You create first a customized configuration, which will allow you to change configuration once you have imported it. And then you start the wizard to create the DB system. You choose the virtual cloud network of your preference. You choose the subnet where you want to place your MySQL endpoints. And then you select the configuration you have created. You select the associated shape for resources to give to the DB system. It is very straightforward. You have a lot of options available. You select the size of the storage, and you create a backup policy or take the default. So it is very much a process of next, next, next. Very straightforward. And then also a note about the MySQL shell check for upgrade checker utility, which will go through your schema and will check the compatibility with MySQL 8.0 if you are not already onto MySQL 8.0. Also, to move the data, you will use, as I said, the MySQL dump and load utility, which is kind of the beefed up MySQL dump utility, since it is capable of multi-threading and it is callable with the JavaScript methods from MySQL shell. So you can dump on basically what it can be a Bastion machine, and you can load your instance onto the cloud. It has shown to take some minutes for databases of several gigabytes, so plan your service maintenance window accordingly. And it is very easy to use. You just connect to an instance and you dump, then you connect to the other instance and you load. There are a bunch of options. But if you want to know more, I think you should really come to the workshop. So this is pretty much it. As you have seen, there is nothing difficult, nothing complicated. It is really an operations which will take you time accordingly to the size of your database, but nevertheless, it is straightforward. So what I suggest you to do next is to test drive the MySQL database service. You can get in touch with me for a trial and you can get a $300 trial in cloud credits, which you can spend on Oracle Cloud on MySQL database service or other cloud services. And the second very important thing which you need to do today at 14, you need to come to the cloud, to the workshop, where you will see all which we have discussed put into practice. So, are there any questions before we lean back and join and enjoy our cloud migration? Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to have you here with me, and see you hopefully next year, everyone back to Riga.
Hey Vittorio, how are you doing? Thank you for the great presentation.
Hi, thank you. I'm very well.
Are you ready to answer a couple of questions that we have from our community?
Only a couple. I'm ready.
Well, a couple now, but maybe once you kind of conduct your workshop, you'll see that there are quite a bit more coming up. First off, do you help with migrating older database versions to MySQL 8? From older to MySQL 8, essentially. Can you help with that?
Yes. Yes, definitely. This is one thing which we normally do for our customers. We provide help and guidance for migration, even though the migration is normally quite straightforward, but we do provide guidance.
Mm-hmm. All right, next up. Does the database size matter? How efficient my SQL shell dump is? What if my database is terabytes in size?
So the MySQL shell dump and load utility, it is way more efficient than what MySQL dump used to be. And yes, the database size still matters because, yeah, I know there are people with Zabbix installation with terabytes
Yep.
databases. In that case, it will require more time, still way less than what MySQL dump used to take.
Mm-hmm. So it's still a lot better over my SQL dump. Um, okay, let's see. Um, can you maybe give us a sneak peek for your workshop? What's the plan for it? What are you going to cover there?
So for in the workshop, which by the way, it is not today, it is November 4 at 2 p.m. Riga time, so 1 p.m. Central Europe. I am going to show how you basically take a Zabbix installation application plus database, which is on-premise, and you transport it onto the Oracle Cloud. So how you move the database and the application part.
Wow, okay, that sounds really useful and something that our Zabbix community members or even customers could learn and then do on their own. All right, thank you a lot. Those were all of the questions for now, but like I said, I expect that you will have to answer a lot more during the workshop.